Good evening, everyone. This is Cricket Lot for Monday, June 10th, 2024. We are at the, you guys, we are at the raw food potluck. Just ate dinner, and we are ready for our talk. And we have Sue Kelly here, who's going to talk to us about your thyroid. So I'm going to share my screen here. And I need to share with sound. I hope that does it. Share. Here we go. Share sound. That's not what I want. Screen. Share screen. Share sound. They moved it. Okay, there we go. And here is the PowerPoint. And I'll just move the slides for you.
Okay, so, and I'll switch seats with you. Yep. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
I'm Susan Kelly, and I've had a thyroid issue for a long time. So I'm an RN, so I know about how the body works, and I've studied about the thyroid because of my own issues, and I have an autoimmune disease, Hashimoto's, which is part of the thyroid thing. So did you want me to wear this or not?
Yeah.
I don't need it. All right, so we're going to talk about the thyroid, what it does, and what you can do to help it. I understand a few of you have thyroid problems. So these are some of the things we're going to talk about. The thyroid is part of the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a system where it's glands that produce hormones that go into the bloodstream, and they go to another part of your body to do something. And so the thyroid is right here under your larynx. So you can't really feel it. If you can feel it, then you probably have a goiter. But we're going to talk about that. I'm going to go over the whole endocrine system with a little film because everything is connected. You know, it's not just the thyroid. It's the thyroid and the adrenals and the pituitary and the hypothalamus, and everything's all interconnected. So this will give you a baseline of how it all fits together. So if you want to start that.
Hormones a lot. Estrogen is the female hormone, while testosterone is the male hormone. Hormonal changes affect growth and development, mood, and more. However, that is only the tip of the iceberg. Your body produces 50 different hormones that regulate everything in your body. You name it, and there's probably a hormone or 3 regulating it. From sleep, hunger, and mood to reproduction and metabolism, hormones work hard to keep the body balanced, aka in homeostasis. In this video, we'll look at some of the body's key glands and their hormones. The major endocrine glands in the body are the hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and pineal gland in the brain, the thyroid and parathyroid glands near the neck, the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys, the pancreas nestled behind your stomach, and the gonads, testes in males and ovaries in females. Let's begin at the top with the glands in the brain: the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, which is connected to the hypothalamus, and the pineal gland. The pituitary gland is further divided into 2 lobes, the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. First, let's consider the hormones of the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary gland produces growth hormone, GH, prolactin, thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, the adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. Growth hormone, as the name implies, affects the growth of nearly every organ, but most notably, it impacts the growth of the bones and cartilage that determine your physical size and shape. Prolactin is primarily responsible for lactation and the development of breasts in females. The anterior pituitary also produces hormones that have the sole function of bossing around other glands to properly produce their hormones. For example, the thyroid-stimulating hormone stimulates the thyroid glands to produce thyroid. The adrenocorticotropic hormone stimulates the adrenal glands to produce some of their critical hormones as well. Follicle-stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone are involved in the sexual development and reproduction of both males and females. FSH and LH stimulate the gonads to secrete sex hormones, such as estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. They are responsible for regulating the menstrual cycle in females. The anterior pituitary takes its commands from the hormones produced by the hypothalamus. This creates a chain of command, a hierarchy, or an axis. The hypothalamus receives signals from the brain and the body, responding to them by secreting hormones to signal the anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary releases its hormone signals to a specific gland to release the final hormone. Next, the posterior pituitary secretes two hormones, antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin and oxytocin. Vasopressin helps control blood pressure by balancing the amount of salt and water in the body. Oxytocin is involved in childbirth as it stimulates contractions in the uterus. It is also called the love hormone because it's released when you're sexually aroused. The posterior pituitary doesn't make the hormones. The hypothalamus produces the hormones and transports them to the posterior pituitary via neurons. As you can see, the hypothalamus is the head honcho around here, no pun intended, and along with the anterior pituitary gland, the hypothalamus is often called the master gland. Finally, the pineal gland receives information about whether it is light or dark outside. When it's dark, it produces the hormone melatonin, which helps you get to sleep. The next gland is the thyroid gland, the largest true endocrine gland. It is shaped somewhat like a butterfly and is located in the neck, below the voice box. It produces and secretes the thyroid hormone thyroxine. This increases overall basal metabolism, making cells work harder. Thyroxine is converted to triiodithyronine, or T3, at the target cell. T3 is more active than T4 within the cell. Iodine is a crucial part of the structure of T4 and T3, but our body can't produce that element. We get iodine mainly from our diet, particularly from the iodized salt you sprinkle on your food. When there isn't enough thyroid hormone, the hypothalamus via the anterior pituitary's TSH stimulates the thyroid to produce more thyroid hormone. If you want to learn more about the endocrine system's feedback mechanisms, they are discussed in detail in another video here. The thyroid gland also produces calcitonin, which regulates calcium levels by decreasing the calcium levels in the blood. The next glands are the parathyroid glands, two pairs of tiny pea-sized glands next to the thyroid. They produce parathyroid hormone, which regulates calcium levels by increasing the calcium levels in the blood. Calcium is not only important for bone health, but is also involved in other processes, such as muscle contraction and blood clotting. Too much calcium can actually weaken your bones and cause kidney stones. Next up is the pancreas. The endocrine function of the pancreas is primarily involved in regulating blood glucose levels. The most famous hormone of the pancreas is insulin, which decreases blood glucose levels by making it possible for cells to take in the glucose. Without insulin, your cells can't take in the glucose. This usually happens in type 1 diabetes, when the pancreas cannot produce and secrete enough insulin. Sometimes, your cells become less sensitive to the hormone, either because of stressors, too much sugar or cortisol, or some other disease. This can also prevent your cells from taking in glucose and is known as type 2 diabetes. The pancreas also secretes glucagon, which increases blood glucose levels by promoting the release of the glucose being stored in the liver. Next up are the adrenal glands, which are divided into two parts, the adrenal medulla and the adrenal cortex. The adrenal cortex secretes a class of hormones called glucocorticoids. However, you probably only know of cortisol, which is one type of glucocorticoid. Cortisol regulates metabolism, cell division, inflammation, and immune function. The body always produces base levels of cortisol, but when we're faced with stress or danger, the hypothalamus, via the anterior pituitary gland's ACTH, signals the adrenals to secrete more cortisol. The next class of hormones are mineralocorticoids, such as aldosterone. This hormone regulates the level of minerals such as sodium, potassium, and hydrogen ions, which affect blood pressure and metabolic reactions in the body. Lastly, the adrenal cortex produces a tiny amount of androgens, or sex hormones, which work along with the main sex hormones for reproduction. The adrenal medulla secretes adrenaline and epinephrine, and noradrenaline and norepinephrine. This initiates our fight or flight response when something dangerous or stressful arises. Then there are the gonads. The gonads, typically testes in males and ovaries in females, also produce hormones, most notably estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. The various sex hormones control and regulate different parts of the menstrual cycle in females and sperm production in males. FSH and LH from the anterior pituitary regulate the production and secretion of sex hormones from the ovaries and testes. During puberty, all these hormones affect the body's growth and development in both males and females. In females, estrogen causes the bones to fuse quicker, which is why females stop getting taller earlier than males. It is a myth that one or the other hormone from the gonads is a female or male hormone. Every human has all three of these hormones. What differs between the bodies of the average female and male are the levels of these hormones. Males tend to have more testosterone, while estrogen and progesterone levels tend to be higher in females. As you can imagine, hormones frequently step on each other's toes. Insulin regulates glucose metabolism, but so does cortisol, the thyroid hormone and growth hormone. Estrogen can impact calcium stores in our bones. The kidneys produce renin, which regulates blood pressure and interacts with adrenal hormones. And all of this is further affected by the nervous system and our environment. This mind-boggling interconnectedness is what helps your body subtly react to the myriad cues it gets every day without completely falling apart. So, in effect, everyone is pretty much hormonal all the time, not just when you're an angsty teenager.
There you are. There's a ton of videos on YouTube, and I went through to find something that it's much easier to see it, than just to hear about it. So you can see how everything is connected. Do you have any questions on that?
Who's the author? How did you find it?
Oh, I just looked through tons of things. It was science something or other. And this shows it again. So our body is communicating with other parts of the body all the time. The hormonal system is one of the main ways the body communicates. Another way is through the nervous system. So there's always sending signals, and of course the brain is the master of everything, right? So you're sending signals from, like if you hurt here, you send signals up here, and then you send a signal back. And with the hormones go into the blood, and then it's, as you saw, it goes to another target area, and there's a feedback system. So I want to explain about how many of you have thyroid issues, if you want to share. Okay, so if you want to talk about what you have, or if you have questions about it, I'll tell you this generally again. The hypothalamus is part of the brain, and then the pituitary is just under that. The pineal gland, or pineal gland, whichever way you want to say it, is different. That's with light, sleep, circadian rhythms, but mostly with the thyroid, it's the hypothalamus. If you are low in thyroid, the hypothalamus will release a hormone called thyroid releasing hormone. And then that goes to the pituitary, which releases thyroid stimulating hormone. Okay, TSH, when you go to the doctor, they measure your TSH. So that's if your thyroid is not making enough, the brain will send these messengers down to say, hey, there's not enough thyroid here, you got to make more. Thyroid is really important for every part of your body, all the functions of your body. And so when you have a high TSH, that means you have a low level of thyroid hormone. This is where people get kind of confused. It's like opposite of what you would think. So if you have a low TSH, then you have high levels of hormone. Again, in the thyroid gland, the main The main thyroid hormones are T3 and T4. And that number just means the 4 means there's 4 iodine molecules connected to it. 3 means there's 3. So in the thyroid gland, it's about 80% T4 and about 20% T3. So many people that I talk to about thyroid issues, they'll say, oh, their doctor says it's okay. It's within range. And I say, well, what are your numbers? Well, I don't know, so because the range can be from like, it varies depending on the lab that you go to, but it can be like 0.4, 0.5 to 5. That's the range of the thyroid hormone. So the doctor says, well, if you're that range, you're okay. But it's not necessarily true. There's a lot of people that have problems and they're in that range. I had the greatest doctor, and Paige Eccles, anybody have her? Yep, you did. Yeah.
She's retired.
Yes, and so is Will. And they were so good about the thyroid. And I really haven't found anybody to replace them like that. But they were right on top of all this. I just got a little sad thing about it gone. But so it's important to get a good practitioner, but it's hard to find them because the gold standard is the TSH. The TSH doesn't tell you enough. And again, as I said, the range is way too big. So Wendy Page Eccles said that it should be below 3. So it's like an optimal range. There's the okay range, or there's the range of the normal, right? And then there's the optimal range. If you want optimal health, you got to be in the optimal range. So that's like 0.4 to 2.5 is pretty much the optimal range. So a lot of people are higher and they still feel problems. What are some of the symptoms of hypothyroidism? I'm talking about hypothyroidism mostly because that's what most people have. Do you know any of the symptoms?
Tired.
Yeah, but tired is really difficult because tired can be from a lot of different things, right? Fatigue is really common. Let me go through.
Shaky.
It depends. There's hypo and there's hyper. So I'm going to focus on hypo first. That's when you have low thyroid, which is what the majority of people have. So if you just look in the mirror, if your face is puffy, if you have orbital swelling like puffy eyes, like you have 1/3 of your eyebrow missing, these are all things that you can see. Your tongue is bigger, and if you get like bite marks on the side, that's another thing. And yeah, indentation, not like.
Oh, it looks like your teeth have imprinted on your tongue.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. Thank you. Works.
Like your tongue is too big for your teeth, so it's pressing against your teeth and it makes an indent in your tongue.
Yep. Okay, so then that's with the head, and then let's go down to the neck. And I told you that you shouldn't be able to see the thyroid. If you can see it, that means you have a goiter. The most common cause of a goiter is an enlarged thyroid. And the most common cause of a large thyroid is iodine deficiency. We are in the area of the country where we don't have a lot of iodine because iodine comes from the sea. So we also are low on selenium, which is a supplement that's really essential for this whole process. There were a lot of goiters in the beginning of the last century, but in 1924, they started putting iodine in the salt. And so that has helped. And so we don't see many goiters anymore. However, my concern now is because a lot of people don't do salt because they have blood pressure problems. Or if you have Himalayan salt, there's not really, maybe a little bit of iodine in there because it's all evaporated out. So we're not really getting the iodine. But before you rush off and get iodine, you should have the well, I want to talk about the test. It's not, everything's so intermingled. I'm like going here and here. But the Hashimoto's is the autoimmune part of low thyroid. And that's what I have. If you have hypothyroidism and your doctor tests your TSH, that's fine, but it's not enough. Ask for the whole panel. So the whole panel would be checking the TSH, the T4, the T3, and they're called free T4 and free T3 because that's the 3 is what is circulating in the blood. If it's bound, it's not called free and it's not usable. So those all should be checked. And then there's something called reverse T3. So there's all kinds of things that's the whole panel of, ask for the thyroid panel, and also have them check you for antibodies, because that's the autoimmune for hypothyroidism. The main cause of hypothyroidism is iodine deficiency, but not so much in this country because we've taken care of that. But hypothyroidism is also very common to have Hashimoto's, which is what I have. That's the autoimmune disease. You all know autoimmune is your body attacking itself, right? And so you need to get that checked, to get the check to the TPO and TGAB antibodies. Just ask for the Hashimoto's antibodies, and then you will know if you have Hashimoto's. Some doctors say, well, why do that? They don't want to do it because the treatment's the same through the doctors. They just say, take thyroid med. But that's not necessarily what you need to take thyroid med, but you also need to take care of your immune system. Okay, so it's a multifaceted approach to all of this.
What would you do in addition to the thyroid meds?
For Hashimoto's, well, there's all kinds of things to do. Avoid gluten, dairy, and soy to start with. So I'll talk about gluten. You've heard about that, the gluten-free. I am gluten-free. And I felt much better after I went gluten-free. Gluten is protein. It's part of wheat. And gluten, our wheat is not the same as it used to be. If you're familiar with that, it used to be this high wheat. Now it's this dwarf wheat, and the gluten amount is increased a lot in the wheat. And so gluten will permeate through the intestines and get into the bloodstream. And so it's called molecular mimicry, which means that it looks very similar to your thyroid tissue. When you have molecular mimicry, it's like it's mimicking molecules. Okay, that's what that means. And so it looks very much like the thyroid tissue. So if I eat gluten and it permeates through my intestines into the bloodstream, then antibodies will come out and attack it, and it will also attack my thyroid. So I can eat gluten, but if you don't take care of it, then eventually, it's just going to damage your thyroid more and more. There are people that live without thyroids. They've had cancer or whatever. And you have to take the hormone, but it's better to keep your body parts if you can. So avoid the gluten and try to, it's all, like I said, everything's interconnected because the Hashimoto's, I have adrenal issues too. And so the cortisol and all this stuff going on, it's all interacts. So you want to keep your stress level low.
Yeah.
Just do it. So, and yeah, I have a hard time with that. I'm doing better, but all the things you do for good health, right? Eat good food. You're doing that. You're eating good food. Drink water. Take exercise. All that. Speaking of drinking water, so here's another thing. I have a countertop steam distiller for my water, because water is always kind of like, what kind of water should you drink? You want to stay away from chlorine. Chlorine is in the water. Fluoride, chloride, is in the water. So I have the steam top distiller, which takes out most of it. I also have a filter on my shower, because if you don't have a filter, then you're getting all that chloride from the water and it's going in the air and you're breathing it in. And chloride is not good for you, or fluoride, because it's part of the halogen family. In chemistry, it's a halogen family, which includes fluoride, chloride, and bromide, or bromine, or whatever. Bromide is, they used to put iodine in bread. They made bread with iodine. They replaced it with this bromide. Obviously, it's cheaper. They always do this because everything's cheaper, right?
Right.
And so those three things will displace the iodine. They will attach to the thyroid hormone and displace. So that's not have, you should have a food allergy test if you can, because you want to see what things cause inflammation. Another thyroid problem is thyroiditis. Whenever you see itis at the end of a word, it means inflammation. So that's, any of these foods that aren't good for you will cause inflammation. And those foods on the food allergy test, I've had a couple of them done. You know, I just have to pay attention to what you're doing, and it's hard, and that, you know, reduce stress. I don't want to be looking at all this stuff, but you know, you have to balance it. You have to know how much you want to get into it or not. So anyway, so that's Hashimoto's. Do you have any more questions about that?
Well, I just don't know about it very much. I don't know where I'm gonna find it, or, you know, why I would have it.
It's a very common cause of low thyroid. If you have gut problems, so you want to heal your gut. We have intestinal permeability, where these foods that you might have an intolerance to, or other kinds of foods like gluten, it will go through the gut and get to the bloodstream, and that causes autoimmune. But you have to address this autoimmune the best you can, because once you have one autoimmune disease, you're more prone to get other ones. So I know, well, I guess I'll just tell you, it's my daughter. I get upset with her. She has Hashimoto's and she doesn't listen to me at all. But I don't know if anybody ever has anybody that doesn't listen to them.
No.
Everybody listen. They don't do it on balance group.
Yeah.
So it gets real frustrating, but you know, you can lead people to water, you can't make them drink. It's a horse, but it's people. but you know, just live by example and tell them, and then they make up their own mind. But it's important to make sure you address the immune system and tell your doctor you want more than the TSH test. You want the full panel. You want to have them check for antibodies to see if they have Hashimoto's. Okay, so that's hypothyroidism. Hyper.
Go to the lab for the blood work, don't they do the whole panel at that time?
Oh, not if your doctor doesn't
Order
it.
Mine didn't order anything but that TSH.
TSH.
I think I said it.
Yeah,
that's what you said. Oh, I didn't.
Then if they put you on a drug for that, you just take it the rest of your life.
The thyroid, yeah, that's what they say. And I've tried to go without it, and yeah, it doesn't work. So okay, we can talk about the thyroid, the medicine they put you on. That's the other thing. They test for TSH, and if you have hypothyroidism, what do they give you? Synthroid, right?
Yeah.
Levothyroxine. It's Synthroid. There's Tyrosint is another form. There's 4 or 5 different ones, but a Synthroid is a medicine that's been around forever. That might be okay, but the T4 is the inactive form of the thyroid hormone. The T3 is the active form. T4 has to convert to T3 before it can be used. And it's converted mostly in the liver. So there's another thing, you've got liver problems and you're going to have problems with conversion. If you have inflammation, you're gonna have problems with conversion. So a lot of people that take T4 and they don't feel better, they might have a conversion problem. So the doctor just gives you T4 and then they just think it's gonna convert to T3 and that's the usable form. My wonderful past doctor put me on a desiccated glandular, which was armor thyroid. You've heard of that one? That's from the pig gland. But then she was so on top of things, she took me off because I had a food allergy test and I had a problem with corn. I did have corn tonight, but it was so good. And so she said they took it off the market for a while, reformulated it, and they put cornstarch in it. So then I went, no.
Oh,
Well, if you have a problem with corn, which a lot of people do, corn and soy and wheat are the most genetically modified crops out there. So if you're going to eat any of those, yeah, there's not
They're
necessarily.
Natural T3.
Yeah, the glandular ones. The armor thyroid has the cornstarch, but then there's West thyroid, and I think that one's gone. NP thyroid, there's another one. It's just a desiccated glandular. So that would,
They require prescription.
yeah,
so what's the problem with levothyroxine?
it's T4 only. It's synthetically made, so if that could be something that you don't like, I don't know, but it is synthetically made and it's only T4. So you take that, and if you have a problem, if your body is not having an easy time converting T4 into T3, T4 means it's got 4 iodine molecules, right? And the T3, it's got 3. The T3 is the, so if you can't do the conversion, then you're not able to really use that. So it's not working well for you.
So if when you go for your lab tests, it shows that it's at the level that they want it to be, then there's not a problem.
Not necessarily. That's so you can be in range and still have problems. Oh, I never got through the rest of the body, the symptoms. So it stopped at the neck, right? So if you're having fatigue, weight gain, then let's go down, weight gain. That's a sign. But you can have fatigue and weight gain without having thyroid problems, but that's one of the indications. So the neck, you can have difficulty swallowing, you choke on food, trouble breathing, that could be an enlarged thyroid, hoarse voice. So the thyroid increases your energy and your metabolism in your body and gets everything working the way it's supposed to. So if things are slowed down with hypothyroidism, so you might have constipation. If you have hyper, you'd have diarrhea. You feel weak, have body aches, joint pain, hair loss. Your hair gets thin, it's brittle. You feel cold a lot. Brain fog, forgetfulness, depression, anxiety, mood changes, weak, slow heart, palpitations, irregular periods, blood sugar problems, high cholesterol. That was another thing. My cholesterol went up with my thyroid problem. Digestion problems, constipation, diarrhea, protruding eyes for hyperthyroidism, itchy skin. So there's a lot of things. But mostly you think of with the hypo, you think of weight gain and fatigue and just like you wake up in the morning, you're just like, anybody relate to that? I can.
What was the glandular one that starts with West something?
West thyroid, WESTTHROID. Oh, there's. So anyway, if you can be within range and still have symptoms. Most of the time, it's women that get the thyroid problems, but men do get it too, but mostly women get this more. And I don't know, there just needs to be a whole lot more done because a lot of people have it and they don't know. And if they get the routine blood test, it's just the TSH and it's within that range up to 5, and the doctor says it's okay, and then they still don't know, right? So,
So did we do this slide, causes of hypothyroidism?
well, I kind of went over it, but this is
Okay.
some of the things, like hypothyroidism could be excess iodine in your blood. If the hypothyroidism has been treated too aggressively, then you might have hyper. With Hashimoto's, you can go up and down. You can go from hyper to hypo, and I've done that too. So, these are all of the things that with the hyperthyroidism.
Hyper, oh,
Yeah, so
that's
let's
too
go to
high.
the hypo. Whoops, wait, the hypo was before that, maybe.
Yeah,
Did
were
we,
on there.
get that one done? Okay. So here's here's the
Yeah, we-
hypo with Hashimoto's.
Yeah, you did all that.
Yeah, I think I covered all that. Okay, so what do? You take your thyroid medication, cut out gluten, dairy, soy, vegetable oils, anything that will cause inflammation. And, a lot of us have a lot of inflammation, a lot of things. Reduce your sugar, nightshades, goitrogenetics. Those are foods like kale, broccoli, Brussels sprouts. You just need to be careful with hypothyroidism with them because eating them raw is not good. You can have a little bit, it's not going to hurt you, but if you're eating a lot of that all the time, but if you steam it, it somehow makes it better and you're okay. Avoid fluoride, chloride, bromine, then those are part of the halogen family. Sleep, decrease stress, repair gut. Yeah, I said all that. AIP diet is autoimmune protocol. It's like the paleo diet, only a little bit stricter. It's an elimination kind of diet, and then you eliminate things and then you introduce them later and you can see how you react. With gluten, before I stopped doing it, I would get a headache. I get tired like right away and go take an hour nap. I get aches and pains. Those were my reactions to gluten. So listen to your body. If you feel like something's going on, then you'll know. So supplements, selenium, as I said, we are deficient in the Midwest in selenium in the soil and iodine. Zinc, vitamin D. Vitamin D is really important. It's not really a vitamin. It acts more like a hormone. This is something else that my dear doctor said. She used to write in vitamin D on the lab slips before it was part of the regular slip where it was there, because she wanted my vitamin D check. Many people are low in vitamin D. As you get older, you get lower in it, and if you put on weight, it's harder. Dark skin, you don't get as much. So all of these things, check your vitamin D level. Your vitamin D level, according to my doctor, should be between 50 and 80, and I've heard 60 to 80. I keep mine over 50. So that's.
What are the symptoms if you low on D3?
Oh my gosh, it could contribute to hypothyroidism because that's all connected. It helps your body to heal. So it could be a multitude of things going wrong. You just need to keep it up above 50. That's the optimal. There's the average and the optimal. You want optimal so you can feel the best you can feel. So here's something else, your digestion. Just think that everything slows down with hypo. So digestion, if you have digestion problems and you want to take, I just bought some new enzymes and they have betaine HCl in them, which is a hydrochloric acid. Your stomach needs to be real acidic. And if it's not going to break stuff down. You're not going to absorb the nutrients, and it's not going to, it just causes problems. So I was taking enzymes and then I take betaine HCl separately, but I don't know about you, but I get so many supplements. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then you read about them. This one looks good. This one looks good. Oh, I got that, So I wanted to consolidate a little bit. A lot of people what they do, if you have low stomach acid, they'll suggest Prilosec or prescribed Prilosec or something like that, right? Well, that's making it go lower.
Yeah.
But you really, the problem is you don't have enough stomach acid, and things aren't breaking down enough, and so you get a little regurgitation. Just look into that, and you can read about it. So you want to take that digestive enzymes with betaine, iodine, if you're deficient. There's a 24-hour iodine test through your urine that I've had that because I had the right doctor, but you can have that checked too. If you take iodine and you have not healed your gut and you still have not taken care of your Hashimoto's, that could be detrimental. Iodine is kind of a tricky one. So, you know, you've got to be really careful that you need it. Anti-inflammatories. Okay, I've got LDN on here, low dose naltrexone. That Dr. Will put me on that for a while. That sometimes is more experimental with having Hashimoto's. And I didn't see much difference, so I didn't get it. Ashwagandha is the #1. You know, that's a really good supplement. Ayurvedic, #1 Ayurvedic supplements, and it's for anti-inflammatory, anything anti-inflammatory. Omega-3s. If you have hyper, you don't want iodine. You don't want to do a lot of these things. I missed the kelp. Kelp is a C product, and that will have iodine and selenium and some other things. Bile salts. If you have gallbladder problems, your bile is thick, you know, you have problems with that, you need to take bile salts. Bile salts are like soap detergent, it's an emulsifier, and it breaks it down so that your body can use that. Magnesium, vitamin B, I just kind of skipped there. Okay, hyper, vitamin D, and B1. So this is a list of the tests. Get checked for all those TSH, free T3, free T4. Again, remember the free means it's not bound to a protein. So that's the usable part. Actually, T4 is the inactive part, but it's the part that's moving through the bloodstream and not bound. And then reverse T3. And then those are your antibodies there. And with the Graves test, Graves is the opposite end of Hashimoto's, is the autoimmune for low. Graves is the autoimmune for the high. And that's the antibody there for that. Food intolerance, and like I said, adrenal. If you have a lot of times, the adrenal and the thyroid are connected in a lot of different ways. You have high cortisol that cause inflammation. So I had a couple of resources on the bottom, but I could tell you, because Dr. Broda Barnes is, have you ever heard of Dr. Broda Barnes? Look that person up. They've been around forever. And a really good, they won the #1 award for best blog site in 2016. It's stopthethyroidmadness.com. That's patients writing in, telling their problems and what their solutions are. And let's see. Oh, David Brownstein, that's another one. He's in Farmington Hills, and he has written several books.
What's his last name?
It's on right here, Brownstein.
I can't read that.
Oh, Bronstein. Here's one of his books. So he's an expert right in our state. There are supplemental things that you can do for iodine or for thyroid, and this is one, Idorol.
Young Living has one called Thyromin, which has some of the things you mentioned, the zinc, the selenium, and that kind of stuff in it. It's like it's not like a medication, it's like food for your
Right, it's
thyroid,
supportive.
Yeah.
So any questions?
I have a vitamin D prescription for once a week.
50,000 IUs, right? Of D2, right?
I don't know.
That's
You're
the-
telling me, how can that possibly work once a week?
Wouldn't it be better to take it every day?
Because vitamin D is,
Fat soluble.
fat soluble, so your body can store it and
Yeah.
use it when it needs it.
So
Yeah.
that's another one where most of us are deficient in vitamin D. Now there's vitamin D2 and vitamin D3. You really want to get vitamin D3, but the doctors prescribe 50,000 once a week vitamin D2 when you're low. But you know, that's probably okay.
20 is better.
But
Once a week.
so I take 2 to 5,000 units a day. There was
D3?
what that, pardon me?
D3,
D3.
I do too, but my doctor gave me a prescription for that, specifically, and you know, it kind of surprised me. This was a while back. Yeah, you were saying D2 and 3, I don't know if I was taking the right thing, but I take it every day.
The other thing, you want to take vitamin D3 with K2.
Right.
So I do that, and that's because K2 directs where the calcium goes in your body. So this is another thing, Dr. Will told me not to take calcium pills because if the calcium doesn't go to your bones and teeth, where's it going? In your arteries and in your soft tissues, and you know, it causes problems. So you want to get the K2 to have it sent to the right place, because vitamin D works with calcium to put that into the bones and teeth, hopefully the bones and teeth, if you have it with K2. So I would definitely get your vitamin D and get these other things checked if you have problems. Any other?
Something for the gut health, the junctures to tighten it, it's called ion gut. So if anybody is interested in it, sell on Amazon.
What's that?
Something to tighten the junctures of your stomach lining, it's called ion gut health.
Yeah, so what happens is it gets loose like that and then it's permeable. The food and stuff goes through and it causes havoc in your rest of your body.
No, it's a product, it's an ancient soil, but they get rid of the stuff you don't.
Dr. Gundry has Total Restore, which is another one, which is good for your gut health. So yeah, you gotta heal your gut.
Yeah. Anyone that's a young living member, they have a vitamin D3 that has the K2 in it already and the vitamin C in it, which also helps.
Well,
Yeah.
vitamin C is another one. I didn't put it on the list, but
Vitamin
that's,
C helps your D3 go
Yep.
in your system too.
it's all.
And it's a
works-
chewable, so it's real tasty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works synergistically, everything, and like
Yeah.
your body, you know, that's doing this and that, and, you know, it's all intertwined. So you read one little piece of information, you think, oh, that's what I gotta do, but you need to know more.
Yeah.
I mean, I've looked into this a lot because of my own problems. So, and you just have to keep looking into it,
Yeah.
reading about it. Then they learn new things. I mean, K2 wasn't an issue like 10 years ago. You didn't hear about K2.
Yeah.
So there's always new studies and new things, and then you have to look at the validity of the study, you know, so,
Yeah.
I mean, you
Yeah.
have to do a lot of critical thinking and information seeking to get the answers.
Yeah.
That's not easy.
Well, thank you, Sue. That was really interesting. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, we'll stop the recording.